Welcome to the deep dive. We are jumping into a really spectacular mystery today, almost theatrical, really.
Yeah, it's got this great philosophical conflict right at its core, between this hardened critic.
Dr. Elias Vance, if you needed a profile, he's the guy who basically built a career dismantling self-help, right?
That's him. Champion cynicism.
Hmm.
Publicly called things like motivation just vacuous platitudes. A total skeptic.
Living a life our sources describe as smelling of stale coffee, cheap paper, and intellectual resignation, which paints a picture.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the universe, or maybe just Julian Kaine, throws this massive curveball.
The ultimate curveball. Julian the Catalyst, Kaine, world's biggest motivational guru, the very guy Vance spent years tearing down. He vanishes mid-summit.
It's just gone.
And the punchline, Vance. Elias Vance, the cynic, is named the sole executor of Kaine's entire chaotic, multi-million-dollar empire.
But here's the kicker, right? It's not really about the money. Kaine's will, this
Yeah.
unfinished project,
Yeah.
it's not a treasure map.
No. What is it then?
It's a series of mandatory, let's call them personal growth challenges, highly targeted, seemingly designed pretty clearly, actually, to dismantle Vance's whole worldview, his defenses.
So that's the real mission here. The guru disappears, and the cynic has to, face himself, his own life.
Exactly. And our deep dive today is into that psychological gauntlet Kaine setup. We're going to unpack these specific challenges.
Yeah, let's try and find the real, messy, probably unmarketable truth about motivation hiding in all this, and figure out why Vance ended up discovering that the ultimate secret, well, it's that there isn't one.
Precisely. No secret formula.
Okay, let's start with the inheritance itself. Vance is bracing for, I don't know, a lawsuit, a huge tax bill.
Right. Instead, he gets this antique puzzle box,
Yeah.
beautifully lacquered.
And inside, no keys to a Swiss bank account?
Nope. Just a single plain white index card. It reads, live a week without I.
Without the letter I, or the word I.
The word I. The first person singular pronoun. And there's an address, too. Leads him to this rundown place, the Whispering Oaks Retreat.
Okay, wait. Live a week without I. Vance must have thought this was a joke, like a grade school grammar lesson wrapped in existential nonsense. Wasn't that his reaction?
Pretty much verbatim. It sounds absurdly simple, almost childish. But think about Vance. His whole identity, his career, his sharp critiques.
It's all his opinions, his analysis. I think this, I argue that.
Exactly. So this task, this pillar one, ego reduction, it wasn't about grammar. It was about the sheer ubiquity of the self in his thoughts, his speech. Kaine was being surgical here.
So how did he even manage? It sounds impossible.
Our sources say it was brutal. His diary writing became this torturous exercise in semantic gymnastics. He literally couldn't write simple things.
Like what? Give us an example.
Okay, so instead of I need light, he'd have to write something like dimness fills the room. Or instead of I should go buy coffee, it became coffee must be prepared.
Wow, that constant rephrasing, it must have been exhausting.
Exhausting, yes, but that's the mechanism. It forces your language into the passive voice constantly. And by day 5, apparently, it started to work. He was forced to talk about the world as something external, something observed, not just filtered through his eye.
It shifted his perspective away from his own ego.
That was the goal, to quiet the self,
Yeah.
so that facts could emerge, unfiltered by his constant opinionating. His identity became less the center of the universe, more like a mechanism reacting to the world.
And when the self finally quieted down,
The facts emerged. He found something hidden under a loose floorboard at the retreat. Kaine's private journal.
okay, so this is where the real secrets are. Motivational fluff.
Not at all. That's what's so compelling. It wasn't fluff. It was scientific, methodical, detailed notes on cognitive behavioral restructuring, CBR.
Wait, CBR, that's a legitimate therapeutic technique.
Exactly. Kaine was charting his own flaws, his own internal struggles, almost clinically, using recognized methods. He wasn't just selling snake oil. He was applying real psychology to himself.
So the guru was also kind of suffering scientist, trying to fix himself.
It seems that way. The journal confirmed the goal of Pillar 1. When the self is quiet, the facts emerge. It showed Kaine was serious, maybe even desperate, about finding something real beneath the persona.
Okay, so quieting the self, that's step 1. Call it B.
Mm.
What's step 2? If the self is quiet, how does it interact with the world?
That discovery of the journal led him straight into Pillar 2, radical honesty. But Kaine added a crucial qualifier, compassionate truth.
What was the specific instruction?
For 72 hours, speak only the truth, but only the truth that serves compassion, not comfort.
Oof. That sounds tailor-made to mess with Vance. His whole thing was using truth like a weapon, right? Intellectual superiority.
Precisely. Truth for him was about being right, often at someone else's expense. Compassion requires vulnerability, empathy, things the hardcore cynic usually walls off.
So who did he practice on? This wasn't just like telling the barista his coffee was mediocre, right?
No, he went high stakes. He confronted Professor Delano, the colleague, who, years ago, had sabotaged Vance's chance at tenure.
Okay, the old Vance would have absolutely shredded this guy, used the truth to humiliate him.
Right. But because he'd just spent a week silencing his own ego, something shifted. He still spoke the truth to Delano, something like, a life is being lived in fear of being wrong, which is pretty direct.
Wow, yeah.
But then he immediately followed it with something constructive, like he is capable of greater work if he stops trying to defend mediocrity.
Yeah.
It wasn't an attack, it was an observation coupled with potential. Truth as a mirror, maybe, not an arrow.
And how did Delano react to that?
That compassionate honesty cracked something open. Delano confessed something huge. Years ago, Kaine himself had reached out to Delano.
About Vance.
No, about Kaine's own work. Specifically, about the ethics of his core motivational system, the one that made him famous and rich. The Siphon.
Hold on, the Siphon. Let's define that for everyone listening. That was Kaine's big program, right? Global bestseller.
Yeah, his cash cow. Could promise rapid results, got people energized, but
Kaine admitted to Delano, and it's in other source materials too, that it basically worked by manufacturing urgency through, like, external fear and guilt. He actually called it the greatest, most efficient lie he ever told. Left people feeling spiritually bankrupt eventually.
get out. The king of motivation secretly thought his own system was a lie, a harmful one.
He was investigating its moral decay, apparently. Trying to figure out how to dismantle or fix his own profitable but shallow system.
That's a massive internal contradiction, selling this thing while knowing it was basically spiritual junk food.
Exactly. And imagine how that landed with Vance. The guru he despised was wrestling with deeper ethical concerns than Vance, the supposed intellectual purist, had ever allowed himself.
Yeah, that would shake anyone's cynicism.
That revelation that Kaine was trying to undo his own damage was the catalyst, no pun intended, for Pillar 3. Deliberate discomfort. Delano's clue led Vance to Kaine's private archive, The Forge.
And the entrance wasn't just a key card, right? It was something weirder.
Yeah.
A psychosomatic lock. It scanned his vitals, his mental state. The instruction inside was essentially Kaine's core equation for motivation.
Let me guess. Something about pain and change.
You got it. Motivation is what happens when the fear of staying the same exceeds the fear of change. Spend 48 hours being fundamentally uncomfortable.
Okay, fundamentally uncomfortable. How did Vance interpret that?
Well, like a typical academic, maybe. He tried surface-level stuff, giving up sugar, running till he dropped, sleeping on a cold floor. Logical discomforts.
Did it work? Did the lock open?
Nope. Kept failing. The scanner message was brutal. Subject vitality baseline, too comfortable, access denied.
Too comfortable. While sleeping on concrete, that seems harsh.
It wasn't about the physical pain level. He was approaching it wrong. He was treating the discomfort as an external enemy to be endured or conquered, like, I will beat this cold floor.
So what was the key? What was he missing?
The pivot came, believe it or not, in a freezing cold shower. But he didn't try to just tough out the cold. Instead, he deliberately used the shock, the intensity of the cold.
To focus on what?
To force his mind onto the real pain, the pain of his old life. The stagnation, the bitterness, the isolation of his cynicism, the academic failures. That was the fundamental discomfort Kaine meant.
Ah, the fear of staying the same. He had to connect the physical trial to the internal stakes.
Exactly. When he consciously linked the cold shower to the paralyzing fear of remaining that cynical, stuck version of himself, the external discomfort transformed. It wasn't punishment anymore. It became fuel. He wasn't fighting the cold. He was using it to embrace the necessity of change.
So he embraced the discomfort as a tool for transformation.
Nailed it. And when he went back and slammed his hand on the scanner, dripping wet, probably shivering,
It worked.
the voice confirmed. Subject vitality baseline, elevated physical stress, emotional state, aligned intention, welcome, executor. He'd achieved what Kaine called aligned intention. The motivation wasn't forced, it was primal, internal, generated from the deep desire not to be who he used to be. That's the cynic learning to do.
Okay, so ego reduction, blunt your action, do what's left.
Service. Generosity. Inside the archive, Vance overhears Vivian. She was Kaine's ruthless second-in-command, his successor.
Ah, the one who just wanted the money.
Right. She's obsessed with finding Kaine's hidden financial wealth. She completely misses the point of this whole psychological journey. But Vance gets it now. This isn't about profit. It's about restitution, making amends.
Which leads directly to Pillar 4.
Pillar 4, inevitable generosity. The instruction, found taped inside a book of Stoic philosophy, was stark. Perform 5 acts of perfect, untraceable generosity.
Untraceable. That sounds like the hardest one yet for Vance. He lived for intellectual credit, for being acknowledged.
Absolutely. This cut right to the core of his remaining ego, to do something good, truly good, and then walk away. Resist any urge to check if the newspaper ran a story about a mystery benefactor. That requires profound humility.
So what did he do? Any examples?
Yeah, the sources mention a couple. He anonymously set up a trust fund to pay for the education of a former protege's daughter.
Wow. Okay.
And then he funded a 6-month sabbatical for a young, struggling artist he admired. But the key part, the funds were specifically earmarked for non-commercial, entirely unproductive creation. Just freedom to make art, no strings attached.
He had to trust the goodness existed even if nobody knew he did it. That's a big shift.
Huge. It's about the act itself, not the validation. That humility, that focus on service beyond the self, finally made him ready for the end game.
Which involved?
The clues from the archive, a silver seed-shaped key, pointed to a final location, a desolate lighthouse. And it was linked to a name, Anya Volkov.
Who was she?
A former consultant Kaine had wronged somehow, someone he desperately needed to make amends with, to apologize to. This was about Kaine's own restitution, too.
So Vance goes to the lighthouse. Confrontation time.
Big time. He arrives and finds Vivian already there. She's practically tearing the place apart, convinced there's a safe full of gold or bearer bonds inside. She represents the old Kaine system, shallow, greedy.
But Vance isn't playing that game anymore.
Not at all. He looks at the safe, thinks about the journey he just completed. Ego reduction, E. Aligned intention action, A. Service generosity, S.
Wait, EAS?
Yeah.
Is that the combination?
He realizes it is the cipher. The very transformation he underwent is the key. He steps up, presses the sequence EAS into the lock mechanism. Click, it opens. The knowledge he gained, the internal change, was the wealth Vivian could never understand or access.
So what was inside? Finally, the treasure.
No money, no gold, just 2 things. A single, completely blank notebook and a small video projector.
A projector?
He turns it on. And there's Kaine. Not the slick guru, just a man, looking older, calmer, wearing a plain gray sweater. He looks relieved.
What does he say? Did he fake his death?
He confirms he didn't die. He just stopped being the catalyst, walked away to find peace, to live authentically. He admits the Siphon was corrosive, that he needed to step away from the lie.
And the secret. Did he finally reveal the secret to motivation?
He did. He explains that the whole sequence Vance went through, the EAS, that was just scaffolding. Necessary work to clear away the noise, the ego, the external seeking.
Just preparation.
Preparation for the real truth. Kaine looks right into the camera and says it plainly. There is no secret. True, lasting motivation is the continuous, messy process of internal alignment with one's fundamental values.
Wow. The ultimate secret is there isn't one. It's just ongoing work, alignment.
That's the moment it fully lands for Vance. The contradiction wasn't in Kaine, it was in himself, in seeking an external answer. Vivian, meanwhile, sees the blank notebook, realizes there's no payout, and just loses it, grabs the notebook, maybe thinking it's coded.
But Vance understands now.
He just says something quiet like, the wealth was in the shedding of the system. It wasn't about finding Kaine's treasure. It was about losing his own baggage.
So what happened to Vance after all this? Did he go back to being a critic?
He went back to academia, yeah, but fundamentally changed. No more cynicism for cynicism's sake. He started writing a new book, something called The Motivation of Myth, focused on humility, dismantling external systems.
Living by his own alignment?
Seems so. His new personal constitution was basically the journey. B, ego reduction. Do, action discomfort. Give, service generosity. Simple, internal.
But the world doesn't always let you keep things simple, right? Someone must have tried to commercialize his story.
Oh, absolutely. Enter Elias Thorne, a sharp broker who immediately saw dollar signs. She whipped up a pitch. The EAS system, the only secret Kaine ever kept.
Oh, no. She wanted to sell the scaffolding, turn it into another 7-step plan.
Exactly. She even tried to rebrand invisible generosity as like strategic karma. Vance, the new Vance, wasn't having it.
What did he do?
She puts the contract in front of him, millions on the table. He just picks it up and tears it in half.
Really?
Says something like, the truth is unmarketable. It has no 7-step checklist and no brand name. Complete refusal to turn the journey back into a product.
That's the final victory, isn't it? Staying aligned even when offered fame and fortune based on the old model.
It really is. And the story finds a quiet close. A thin, certified letter arrives for Vance sometime later.
Okay.
Inside, just a photograph.
Of Kaine.
Kaine, looking peaceful, sitting by the sea near that lighthouse. And he's with Anya Volkov.
The woman he needed to apologize to.
Yep. He used his disappearance, and maybe even Vance's journey, as part of making his own restitution, finding his own peace. And there's one final note in the envelope from Kaine.
The last instruction.
The final instruction for the aligned man. It summed up everything, moving beyond striving entirely.
What did it say?
The lighthouse doesn't chase the ships, Elias. It just stands there and shines.
Wow. Don't seek, just be. Emit your own light.
That's the essence. And think about that blank notebook Kaine left in the safe. That stands out, doesn't it?
Yeah. Why blank?
Kaine didn't leave a new formula. He left space, an empty notebook. Because Elias had to stop looking for the guru's answer, stop chasing someone else's system. He had to start writing his own story, one authentic, aligned word at a time, fueled from within, not by external goals or validation.
So we've walked this incredible path with the cynic who had to find his own drive, his own reasons. It seems motivation isn't some spark you chase or definitely not a product you can buy.
No, it's the result, the byproduct, maybe, of that continuous, often messy process of aligning what you do with who you genuinely want to be based on your core values.
You listening, you now know the unmarketable truth Kaine and Vance discovered. The courage to live, to act, isn't some secret locked away.
It's not something you buy. It's a decision made daily, outside of any neat checklist or system.
So maybe the question to leave you with is this. What is the single unmarketable truth you are finally capable of writing for yourself? We'll let you chew on that one. Until next time, keep digging deep.